Leadership starts with communication. It binds a productive and an effective team together. Attorney Mariam Kuregyan empowers by becoming a role model. Her commitment and competency lifts and transforms others. Embracing humility helps her to overcome obstacles and achieve lasting results. Congratulations on the outcome of your most recent successful case. Can you please go into detail?
Thank you, Arshadus, for that wonderful question. It's hard to limit success to one case just because every day we come across many personal stories. But one case that stands out for us in particular is a case that is near and dear to our hearts, particularly because when we got the case, we weren't sure on liability, who was at fault for the case, but the injury was so severe that our team decided to absolutely take it on and really work diligently on the idea of finding out what really happened and finding out who's responsible for the injury that was caused. So I can't really disclose too much about the case, but I could tell our viewers that initially, when the case came along into our practice, the odds were against our client because there was no witness. Our client didn't remember how the accident really occurred, and we didn't have much to go by. So it took a lot of work and it took a lot of back-end investigation for us to really identify the at-fault party and ultimately bring a favorable resolution to our client. And our client was very young but very injured, and I think coming to a place where we were able to deliver that good news of, hey, we now know who was at fault, and hey, we're going to bring closure to your case, and we're going to address the injury itself. I think that was so rewarding and fulfilling, not only for me, but for my entire team.
Well, your team is meticulous and dedicated.
Yeah, and a lot of times the back end work is invisible, and I think the general audience focuses on results. What was the delivery? What was the settlement? But I think the beauty of our practice is really seeing what happens on the back end and how we're able to leverage the limited information that's given to us from the outset to then seeing how that limited information is getting us closer to really giving our clients the resolution that they're looking for. And I think I want to highlight that for everybody who's ever been injured. You know, when you're injured, you're at your lowest point, and you need a strong team to guide you through that injury and move you in the right direction and not let the background information lose its prominence and lose its focus. So I think we pride ourselves at Davana for being the kind of team that doesn't draw conclusions from the beginning, instead says, okay, let's sit back, let's dice out the noise, and let's focus on how we could possibly help our client with the information that's available to us.
So more power to you guys.
Thank you so much.
As the holiday season approaches, what are the tips you can provide to our viewers?
Well, holiday season is everybody's favorite season. Everybody looks forward to that. I know that 'cause my kids tell me every time they get the chance. Christmas is their favorite holiday, then it's followed by Thanksgiving. I don't know whether it's the food or it's the school breaks, but I think it's both. But holiday season a lot of times gives us an opportunity to be more with the family, but at the same time it creates an added level of anxiety of delivering for our family. So I know that a lot of parents like me who have young kids, we're always rushing, we're always looking to complete that gift list, host list, things like that. So I always tell my audience to take a step back, to never be rushing somewhere, because a lot of accidents happen when we are distracted. When we're distracted, and you marry the fact that you're anxious, that's a formula for disaster. So I always tell you, the tips that I provide to all of my clients or my audience is that you're never gonna be late to something if you really think things through and not take on too much. So give yourself that time to get somewhere. Don't rush. It's not worth it. And the most difficult injuries happen when somebody's rushing. So tip number 1, don't drive too fast. Tip number 2, don't ever drive when you're distracted. And tip number 3, always, if you're on the road, if you maintain distance, you can always avoid an accident because you've got the distance. So 3 things: speed, don't be rushing; distraction, don't be distracted; and maintain distance. That's my go-to rule. Even when I meet new drivers, I tell them, do these 3 things and you're going to be fine. Another tip, I think when we're in a public area, we have to kind of look out for unforeseen injuries, right? Right now, there's a lot of people out, and you have to be vigilant about your environment and your surroundings. So pay attention to what's out there so that you can kind of avoid the unforeseen injuries that typically happen in a supermarket, for example, the trip and falls and things of that nature. So just overall, I urge everybody to be vigilant about their environment.
So concentration and vigilance.
I say that, but you know what? Bad things happen to good people all the time. So we can be vigilant, we can be preventative, but when something tragic happens, then I guess the next rule would be always consult, always talk to a good team that has your best interests in mind so that they can guide you through it.
Oftentimes, people who suffer injuries are unsure if they have a case or not. What would you recommend?
Fantastic question. I hear that all the time. We will get calls constantly about a severe injury, but it happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 4 years ago. And the challenge is, unless an attorney is present from the beginning, it's very, very difficult to undo the damage that the time has done. So I always recommend everyone that's been injured to not lose time. Consult an attorney. A lot of times, personal injury attorneys such as us, consultation is free. So you really have nothing to lose to consult with an attorney. And my recommendation to everybody is consult as many attorneys as you need to feel comfortable about your decision, because attorney-client relationship is a very personal relationship, and unless you're extremely comfortable with that relationship, it's not going to be easy to make progress in the right direction. So the challenge is, when we lose time, we are no longer effective. So if there's anybody out there amongst your viewers, I urge them to consult an attorney. It's a simple phone call. Thanks to COVID, we now have the capability to make very efficient consultation sessions virtually. You don't even need to leave the comfort of your home. So consultation is free. It's available to anybody. I have a team of 12 who are available probably around the clock, 24/7. I've never had a phone call that's gone unanswered, but consultation is the beginning, and then follow through is the second step. You have to consult, and then you have to make a decision. You have to ultimately team up with a firm or an attorney that speaks to you, to your personality, so that they can do the back-end work that's necessary to establish a case. Because just because you're injured, just because somebody was negligent about it, doesn't mean you're now going to have a case. You need to take the steps to make that into a process. So those are my recommendations. Another thing that happens very frequently, I realize, is my potential clients get advice, but all from the wrong places, right? Because we are in a community where everybody has an opinion. Opinion is one thing, but consultation and knowing the law and steering you in the right direction is a completely different instance. So a lot of times my clients or potential clients get confused thinking, oh, I got a consultation, but no, it was an opinion which probably doesn't bear the legal nuances that should have gone into that consultation. So be very careful about what advice is coming your way and question that advice. Is it coming from a person that knows the law? Has this person done similar work? If the answer is no, I don't see the harm in asking few other attorneys about the same instance and see what information you gather from those consultations. It's a challenge, and I know a lot of us are set in our ways, but we have to peel that onion and get to the true advice that is needed, especially when we're injured. Does that speak to you?
It does, and I wanted to actually add, a neighbor's opinion is one thing, but all you need is a professional one.
And there's a reason why we have such rigorous training, and experience matters so much, because a lot of times a problem presented sounds very simple, right? Oh, I was here, I got injured, and so is his fault. It's very simple. But the reality of it, within the legal world, the requirements are much, much different than they are outside of the legal world. So what do you have to lose? Not much. A consultation is free. It's essentially a 15-minute conversation. We really have no reason not to consult an attorney, but for our own inherent belief that we already got that advice elsewhere. So question where the advice is coming from and really make the determination. Was that advice from the right person, from the right professional? And that's what I would urge all your viewers to think about. Another issue that I think is a big challenge, a lot of times we ourselves dismiss the idea of whether we have a case or not, because it's much easier to retreat and tell yourself that I don't have a case, this is not a big deal. But what happens is, with the passing of time, you lose any opportunity of bringing that case back to the front lines. So I think we ourselves jeopardize that decision of making that phone call, because the phone call is not hard to do, but we convince ourselves that it's not necessary. I recently went to a convention in Georgia, Atlanta, and the conversation was, of all the injured parties, only a fraction of the percentage is making a claim. And I don't want to cite the statistics because it's not on top of my forefront, but I think less than 20% of injured parties present a claim. The question is back to be asked, where's the rest of the 80%? What happened to them? Where are they? It's because they're not willing to ask the question. They're not willing to consult. They're thinking they don't have a claim, but in reality they do. So we have to change that narrative. We have to raise awareness, and we have to motivate the injured party to come forward, because really the system is designed to really help them so that they can heal from the injury and come back into the working society instead of remaining handicapped or injured on permanent basis.
So take the first step by consulting a professional.
Yes. It's easier to walk a path if there's somebody leading. A lot of times I found myself leaning forward on my own. And now I lean forward for my clients, and the easiest way to give confidence is to express unconditional love. And I try and do that with my clients, and a lot of times it yields in success. We serve the greater area of Los Angeles, personal injury primarily. DaVanna stands for the opportunity to carry you through that injury, carry you through that process, and essentially render help.
DaVanna is the ultimate helping hand. Helping people motivates me, getting great settlements motivates me. Delivering that news to clients is my favorite part of the job. Being able to be that light at the end of the tunnel for the client, such a fulfilling job.
About 4 years ago, I tragically lost my brother. 1 second he was here with us, and within a nanosecond he wasn't. When you can witness a loss that great, it changes your reality. I know that that's what's happening to my clients when they're involved in a catastrophic accident. And that kind of experience allows me to connect better with them, and simultaneously allows me to carry them through that journey, because I myself have walked through it. And when you marry the legal help along with the emotional help, the journey becomes much more healing. Their perception of what life is and what it can be is being shattered so that it could be built back up.
I was working for a nationwide insurance defense law firm. I'm able to apply strategies that I've learned on the defense side against the defense. Making clients whole is the most rewarding aspect of working personal injury cases, and you're able to give your clients closure.
A lot of times my clients feel that they haven't been seen, they haven't been heard. So when I take on a client that's been injured, I feel that a lot of times I give them that voice of being heard and being seen through the eyes of the law.
Mariam, you've been practicing for more than 16 years. What is the most common injury that come across in your practice?
I have to say the most common injury that I see is what we call the invisible injury. And I think it goes hand in hand with the idea of why so few people present an injury claim in our society. It's because the injury itself is invisible, right? We will think of an injury when there's blood. We will absolutely think there's injury when something's broken, fractured. But I think when the injury is invisible, no blood, no fracture, a lot of us hesitate about labeling it as injury. And I think that's why such few numbers of injured parties come forward. But really the most significant injuries are the invisible injuries. For example, an injury to your head. If you've sustained a traumatic brain injury, it's not visible, it's internal. And how do you document that? How do you identify that? How do you then empower your loved ones from seeing that you're now injured and getting help for you, right? That's the most common type of injury. Another common type of injury is injury to your spine. In a motor vehicle accident, a lot of times your injury is in your spine and it's not visible, right? But it could carry a permanent injury that will be with you during your entire lifetime. So I think the most common injury and the most difficult injury in our line of practice is the invisible injury to your spine and to your head.
In general, what trends do you see in the nearest future?
Oh, the future is what excites everybody, me too. Again, I was at this convention and we talked about trends. One of the most anticipated trends is the self-driving car. And we as an industry are preparing for it, are analyzing it, and we think about what is that going to do to our industry? How is our industry going to take the necessary steps to prepare for that new trend? But in reality is until we start seeing the new trend unfold, we won't be 100% ready for it. But the new trends are in the area of technology. Technology obviously helps our profession, and recently we are launching a new app for Devana Law Firm, and the app will simply keep my clients informed about every step of their case, because a lot of times the question is, what's happening? What stage is my case in? When can I anticipate closure? So an app will send you constant updates about where we are in the process so that there's no guessing and there's no big black hole about what's happening during the time where my client's waiting for a resolution. So the trends are within technology, the trends are within what the consumer is expecting in comparison to other industries. And most importantly, the biggest trend that I see is having come out of a global pandemic, we're going back to the basics of caring for each other and nurturing each other's needs. And I see a lot of clients reciprocate to that idea of wanting to be taken care of. So I'm very excited for all the new trends.
In this day and age, people have become robots, so thank you for mentioning caring.
And we wouldn't be doing what we're doing unless we're very, very compassionate. And ultimately, I feel like our industry is in the profession of extending unconditional love and care for the injured, because unless we come from that place of kindness and care, we won't be able to do our job to its fullest. And I think so many times do I see that that element is missing, and I am being really, really careful about introducing that and making that be part of every single case, because unless we genuinely care for the person, for the outcome, we won't be able to perform at 100%.
Can't agree with you more.
Thank you.
As we all know, insurances vary. What specific coverages would you recommend?
You know, the one area that I wish I could change is coverages, insurance coverages that our community is used to attaining. And I think maybe it's twofold. Maybe we don't have the right education out there available. And secondly, we don't have the right advice being given, because a lot of times I'll see a client, everything pans out except for the coverages. Coverages as it relates to your assets and your automobile coverages is the single most important thing that is overlooked. And I think we have to educate the population about what is proper coverages. And in really quick, short synopsis, I want to kind of pass out a formula. You have to look at what is being protected when you are purchasing coverages. If you have a home that's worth X amount of dollars, the coverage has to equate that home, right? It has to cover the event of the loss. Similar for a car coverage. If you are transporting precious cargo, the coverages have to relate to that valuation, okay? We cannot be relying on state minimum. California state minimum for a car protection is only $15,000. $15,000 for a bodily injury claim nowadays is truly not proper coverages. So I urge my clients, I urge my loved ones to always get the kind of coverages that are protective of the cargo that's in the car. And the most precious cargo we have these days is our health, is our well-being, and the people that we love that are with us in that transportation. So I really think that there's no cutting corners when it comes time to purchasing proper coverages. And if I tell people, if you have any questions about coverages, or maybe your policy is up and you're thinking of renewing, again, it's a quick 5-minute call. Call the office and we'll guide you through what is acceptable, what is reasonable, and what is optional. And I don't see a reason why somebody shouldn't have proper coverages in this day and age.
And besides, cutting corners would not take you far.
But unfortunately, we see that so much in our community. Again, going back to getting the wrong advice. I can't stress enough about consulting the professional that knows about that industry. You cannot be consulting somebody from a different industry about what coverages you should be purchasing, because their know-how is not applicable to this know-how. So I urge people to really think about where the advice is coming from and be very attentive about making the right decisions when it's appropriate.
I know that the Davana team has raised the bar with a new attorney. Can you please elaborate?
Well, I'm always excited to share news about our growth and our news stories. And I think growth is so important when you are providing a service to a community that it's in dire need of the right advice. So I always look to team up with the right professionals, and we recently had Alan Harutunyan join our team, which is so exciting, and we couldn't have been more proud. When you bring in experience and you bring in somebody who shares the values that our team shares, I think it's a win-win situation, because we are now expanding our horizons and we are better positioned to advocate for our injured clients. So I'm very excited that we have a new team member, and I'm very excited that our growth is not limited to a singular task, but instead we really define ourselves as not having any limits. As long as there's a need, we're looking to fulfill that need.
As always, it was a pleasure.
The pleasure is always mine. It's easier to walk a path if there's somebody leading. A lot of times I found myself leaning forward on my own. And now I lean forward for my clients, and the easiest way to give confidence is to express unconditional love. And I try and do that with my clients, and a lot of times it yields in success. We serve the greater area of Los Angeles, personal injury primarily. DaVanna stands for the opportunity to carry you through that injury, carry you through that process, and essentially render help.
DaVanna is the ultimate helping hand. Helping people motivates me, getting great settlements motivates me. Delivering that news to clients is my favorite part of the job. Being able to be that light at the end of the tunnel for the client, such a fulfilling job.
About 4 years ago, I tragically lost my brother. 1 second he was here with us, and within a nanosecond he wasn't. When you can witness a loss that great, it changes your reality. I know that that's what's happening to my clients when they're involved in a catastrophic accident. And that kind of experience allows me to connect better with them, and simultaneously allows me to carry them through that journey because I myself have walked through it. And when you marry the legal help along with the emotional help, the journey becomes much more healing. Their perception of what life is and what it can be is being shattered so that it could be built back up.
I was working for a nationwide insurance defense law firm. I'm able to apply strategies that I've learned on the defense side against the defense. Making clients whole is the most rewarding aspect of working personal injury cases, and you're able to give your clients closure.
A lot of times my clients feel that they haven't been seen, they haven't been heard. So when I take on a client that's been injured, I feel that a lot of times I give them that voice of being heard and being seen through the eyes of the law.
For advertising on Inside TV, please call 818-653-0199.